Well, hey everyone, welcome back for another round of Karate Ramblings. I'm Kieran,
And I'm Brian.
and today we've got a bit of a niche topic going on. Um, Karate, but now, Brian, you were talking a second ago before we logged on about what martial arts mean. Could you just run through with that
Yeah,
again, please?
yeah. Well, yeah, karate butt sounds a bit odd. So yeah, I
Mm,
do karate, but I think
yeah.
that's the thing that you always say whenever you talk to somebody and they say, "Oh, you do karate," you say, "Yeah, I do karate, but." And I think the problem is karate is well, it's not a problem. It's a good thing, really, but it's such a broad church. It's got so many different faces. Whereas if you said to somebody, "I do judo," you don't need to say "but" because they know exactly what you do. Or I do
Mm,
kickboxing, I do Muay Thai. It's it says that's what it says on the tin. Whereas karate, I think, like I said, has so many faces to it.
mm.
So I feel like you have to explain yourself when you tell people you do karate.
Yeah,
I mean, we could talk about all the different faces of karate and what we do ultimately. So
yeah,
um,
absolutely. If we're talking like long time ago, the different phases. We first phase you could say would be the old Okinawan masters. They learnt their Chinese striking, they learnt their Okinawan wrestling, and then they put it into practice on their streets in Okinawa on the red light district and that.
and they were probably simpler days because you
Mm,
could just say, I do karate, and everybody knew what you did.
yeah,
You know,
I
or
mean, if you look at it this way as well, karate was such a niche thing at the time. It was on this tiny island off the south coast of Japan
the
that no one
birthplace
had
of
ever heard
karate,
of. Yeah,
Okinawa.
exactly. Oh, we were trying to avoid saying that, but
Oh, damn it! It's a
but
drinking game, everyone.
yeah,
So,
absolutely. It is
yeah.
that would be a fantastic game. Jesse released a new video the other day, but I don't think he actually said it. So
Right,
we,
okay. No
but
shots on that one.
no, I'm
Yeah,
afraid not. But yeah. So I suppose that we could call it phase one, and then I suppose phase two would be leading it off to Japan.
yeah, and that's where I suppose it eventually it all sort of splintered off into different groups, didn't it? But I suppose it
Mm,
started off as a physical education type thing for college students and preparing
mm,
people for the military as well, wasn't it? So that's where we get all the heart, all the discipline, the lines, and everybody doing everything together, and the us and all the loud
mm,
guys. So I think,
yeah.
and again, I suppose it was fairly standard then. You did karate, everybody knew what you did.
But I think also at the same time, it was a case of I do karate under this school or that school because I mean there are only going to be so many schools. Like, are you doing Shotokan with Funakoshi? Are you doing Is it Shotokai? No, no, no. What was Mabuni's one? I forget his.
Oh, yeah, Shitori-ru, was it
Shitor
Shitori-ru?
Yoshitoru.
Yeah,
You had Wadaru
Wadaru,
under Otsuka,
Otsuka,
and you had a few different
Yeah,
schools,
Goju-ru,
but yeah, Gojiru
Miyagi,
and
yeah, Miyagi.
Miyagi, and there were. It was the same thing. It was like I don't know. It was basically like Cobra Kai. It's the All Valley. You've got your Eagle Fangs, you've got your Cobra Kais, you've got your Miyagi Dos, and you've got your Stingrays as well.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, well, yeah. You drifted off into sport there, haven't you? Really. So, um,
mm,
but I think whenever I explain myself to somebody, I do karate. But I think that one of the first things I say is it's not the kind of karate you see in the leisure centres or most of the sort of church halls that you see like kids lined up punching thin air. And I think that's the image that everybody has of karate, isn't it? That
yes,
you're marching
absolutely.
up and down in lines, which would be the 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 the, the pre-war Japanese karate, I suppose. Marching up and down the dojo. I wonder. I don't know if they did much kumite at that stage, whether it
I
was all.
think they did a lot with the college students because that's what got them, that's what they wanted to do. So that's what I did a lot of. But what was I going to say?
To get the mindset.
Yeah,
And,
when it
yeah,
was the marching up and down, that was a lot of the, when it was introduced into primary schools with I know Ian likes talking about Anko Tosu's letter and how it would
yeah,
be a good thing for the youth to learn. So yeah, I suppose that is the next phase. It was primary schools, then college students, probably high school students as well, who just want to have a bit of a scrap there. And then it was post-war and the dominance of Shotokan.
Yeah, yeah. So I do karate, but it's not what you see in the mainstream. I mean, one of the things that I think a lot of people, when they think karate kumite, they think WKF. And
Mm.
again, our kumite is nothing like that, so we have to
Which
explain
Kumite?
ourselves. Yeah, well, I mean, we do, yeah, I suppose lots of different types, all accumulating in one
Yeah.
messy fight at the end of it. So, if we hone our kickboxing skills, we'll hone our grappling skills, striking within grappling, throwing within grappling, a little bit of
Mm.
groundwork as well, sort of getting back to our feet,
Yeah.
which is a million miles away from WKF type kumite or sparring. Um,
Absolutely. That is a very restricted rule set. I mean, the thing is, after, karate groups kept on splintering and splintering, even the JKA has been splintered like 100 or so different times. Hyperbole, of course. But everyone's got their own different rules for kumite, but that did seem to be the that point sparring, the big kiais and the minimal contact did seem to be the modern day result of all that splintering and rules.
yeah, yeah, I must say, because I did a lot of karate. Well, all of my competing was predominantly in the 90s. I did some in the 80s as well, and it
Mm,
was the old school JKA type
mm,
point sparring, which was hard. It was hard contact, and it had to be hard contact to score. Whereas, yeah, it's got safer and safer and safer. But I would say, the WKF athletes, because that's what they are of a real high skill level. But it's,
mm.
again, I do karate, but I don't do that. If I entered their arena, I'd lose, straight away.
Yeah.
They're so fast, so agile, and I suppose that kind of sparring or that kind of kumite, that kind of rule set, I think is good for kids.
Mm,
So it's a safe way kids can get into tournament fighting, but at some point they need to then transition to real karate or what we
yeah.
see as real karate. But it's a
Mm.
good introduction, I think.
Yeah, I mean, doing karate, as we were saying, I do karate. People just think of the standard, like you said before, going up and down in lines and the point fighting and the solo forms. But if when I get into conversations with people like online or in person, they ask me, "Oh, so you do karate?" Like, yeah, I do karate, and then I could tell them, "Oh, it's it's practical, close quarters, kickboxing and various striking and or." If I just say to someone like who knows karate, oh, we do practical karate, or I say we do combat karate.
Combat karate is probably a good description of it, not
Mm,
karate combat. We
yeah,
don't want to
no,
go
that's
down that road
that
again, eh?
that's a fighting league which ruffles some
Yeah,
feathers on both sides. So let's leave that
yeah,
alone today, shall
yeah,
we?
yeah. Combat or combative karate, I don't know. Um, but yeah, when we say again, I do karate, but we do kata, but we don't do a lot of solo form kata.
No, not
So
at all.
the amount of time we spend with partner drills for kata or sparring with kata, probably about 95%, and then
Absolutely.
the solo would be the 5%. So we don't really do a lot of that. So our kata, although I like to see a nice performance of kata, it's not really meant to be aesthetically pleasing. So it's
Mm,
so again, I do karate, but I don't do that. That's that side
mm,
of it, which the image that most people would have is again, people performing kata, and that may change for me. I'm getting on in years. I'm the older guy in this conversation. It was pointed out.
yeah,
So,
but
um, yeah, so that may change for me because as I get older, I might actually start to enjoy going back to doing the solo form again. Just for the health benefits of it. Um, but at the moment, I far more enjoy the combative side of it. So it's
mm,
you know I don't do the solo punch. I don't do the punch in thin air so much,
mm,
which I'd say
yeah,
a lot of mainstream dojos, it would be 90% solo work. You know, punching thin air, doing kata. Even I've heard this as well of some dojos local to us that even their 5 step, because we think 5 steps a bad thing. Personally, I do. Stepping back 5 times or stepping back 3 times, not getting offline. I think it's a bad thing. But I've heard of clubs that do that as a no contact thing now as well, so as for
No
safety. So
contact.
so their distance will be, you know, 6 to 12 inches away from their punch will land 6 to 12 inches away from their opponent's face. So they're kind of they're blocking, but there's no need to block because the range is completely
Hmm.
out. So the range was a terrible range to start with, but now they've made it safer by making sure 6 to 12 inches, 15 to 30 centimeters for you youngsters.
I
So
mean, that's like, that's the fist landing that far away from your face. Like, oh,
yeah,
and I'll block here, or I might block over
yeah,
there. Like,
yeah.
it's not even a threat.
Mm,
I want to touch on something that you said a second ago as well. I always remember this because this changed a lot of my perspective on the solo form. I mean, the form needs, like you said, it can look aesthetically pleasing for competition, but the form that you do for yourself, it needs to look a bit messy. It needs to look a bit scrappy. Because I think it was Sensei Harry Gilling who said this. The
yeah,
form needs to look like a fight. I mean,
yeah,
you'll have your hand in the right places, but you want to have that intent in your eyes and that grunting, Kagazuki. You want to think about
yeah.
ripping that through because you're
I
either
think,
wrenching someone's head or you're battering them around the jaw.
yeah, I think when you saw Harry perform Kata, it was a bit scary, wasn't it? So he did have that intent and he had that mindset.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I lost my train of thought because you changed it again. You changed it on the Kata bit. But
sorry.
no, that's all good. I say with regards to the Kata though, again, I think the old masters, it's come back to me now, but the old masters only had a handful of kata that
Mm,
they performed with a partner. They didn't, like, I think modern day karateka collect a lot of katas. In Shotokan there's 26, and
yes,
by the time,
yes.
I think, with when I was doing mainstream type karate, I probably had about 23 of them down. And that's a lot of kata to
Nice.
remember. And
Mm,
knowing 23 kata doesn't mean you can fight. So
absolutely. It means 23 dance sequences. I remember hearing, I think it was Mabuni, who was something of a kata collector, and I think Shitoru has the highest number of kata in any kind of grading syllabus. I think it's I had the number might have been 76. I could be wrong,
Well, yeah,
uh,
that's a lot, isn't it?
but the kata is just it's the form, and it needs to be extrapolated into partner drills, into fight drills, and you know for its intended purpose. But it is that thing of like, oh, I do karate, but I don't waste all my time on doing 70 odd different dance sequences.
Yeah. So what I was thinking, I'm gonna go on a tangent again now
Yeah, go
because
for it.
while it's still in my head, but I think it was Karate Culture or maybe Karate Breakdown, which is Michael, who's gone off and he's doing it on his own now. Their strapline was karate, bringing back the old ways, and I think
Mm,
that's kind of what you want to be. I do old school karate, maybe, but even then, I still think people wouldn't know. If you said, yeah, I do, or like you said, I do combative karate, I do old school karate.
mm,
Um, People still would be confused. What's old school karate then? But then that
yeah.
would that would start you wouldn't have to excuse yourself for doing karate. But it's like Mal Sanchez Jones said to us, when you say I do kudo, people say, "Oh, what's that?" Because nobody
Mm,
knows what it is. So then you don't have to excuse yourself. You still have to explain yourself, but you're
yeah.
not trying to make an excuse for doing kudo.
It,
Whereas I feel that's what you do with karate. I feel like you make
mm,
an excuse for doing it.
yes, absolutely. I mean, the thing is, karate isn't it whilst it has been in a way mainstream karate, it was designed for children. Karate is still, very much a hard-hitting, all-encompassing type of martial art. Now, true, it's not always, competed in that way, but it still contains, all of your, various striking, grappling, throwing, and joint locks. Yeah, you
Mm,
find in any other martial art. It's a thing where karate has become that household name, and especially after the last Olympics, it did sort of like, okay, people are like, oh, I've never seen a karate professional karate fight before. One I watched the Olympics, and you saw some poor bastard got knocked out and got the gold medal.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, and that's where I thought karate combat would bring some credibility back to karate. as well.
Mm,
And we had a talk about karate combat. It is a good format. I
mm.
do think it is good, but I think it's lost its way a little bit. So I think
It has, and
you know,
a lot of the fan base seem have agreed on that as well. There
yeah,
are still some, fans who, very much
die
into
die
it.
hard.
Yeah, but
But
diehards, good
yeah,
fans, people who have actually, emotional investment into it, and that's fine, but it's not
but I
for us
thought that
anymore. And
may help us. I thought that may be the vehicle that would stop us saying I do karate, but you know,
yeah, I
you
remember
know,
one time I was at the gym, and I noticed that this guy who was training next to me had a Gracie Jiu Jitsu rash guard on. I was like, oh, where do you train? You anywhere local? He was like, oh, wait, do you recognize this? Like, oh, because Brazilian Jiu Jitsu is mainstream to martial artists, but if you ask someone on the street, do you know what Brazilian Jiu Jitsu is? Not everyone knows. So it was like, oh, do you know what this is? So we had a little talk about martial arts, and what was I going to say? I told him I do karate. He was like, oh, karate combat. I'm like, yeah, kind of similar.
okay, yeah. So it may have changed some people's minds. Yeah, I suppose
Yeah,
people are into combat sport.
I mean, this was back in
Have
the
seen it.
day, this was not early days karate combat, but this was a few years ago. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
before certain people came onto the scene. So,
yeah.
yeah, no, I mean, it did promote the name, I do think. But the thing is, it has now become its own striking league where, you can go in and, I think I remember
It's
seeing controversy over someone coming in as a boxer, and like they said, oh, that's their karate style. Like everyone's like, that's not a karate style. That's a separate combat sport altogether.
that could bring us on to, you know, I think there was a post on Andy Allen's group the other day about some really bad bunkai. People doing it from north, south, east, west. That kind of old. See, if I say old school, it's that is not old school. That's modern old
Mm.
school. I don't know, but doing kata from compass points, defending from the points of the compass. But Andy's argument was, I'll take whatever I can from um, any art and incorporate it into my karate. So he's
Mm.
saying like, oh, that boxing style wasn't, that maybe that was what he would call his karate, because if people walked into our dojo, they'd probably say that's not karate, um, because it's not karate as they know it. But I think
Mm.
taking things what are useful, it's the old Bruce Lee thing, isn't it? And discarding what is not. And I think that's pretty much what the old masters did as well. On Okinawa, Funakoshi and Mabuni, Matobu,
Yeah.
they would have taken what was useful. If it works, you're going to use it, aren't you? You're not going to think, oh, that was a really good armbar, but I'm not going to add it into my skill set because it's not karate. You would put it in and you'd call it karate.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely. It is that thing of like you take things that you're lacking or find things that you've never found before. You find what you like about it and you add it into your rule set, and then you go and apply it. I remember excuse me, there was a really old video of like an old karateka going to go and fight people in Thailand, the Thai boxers, and thought, that's amazing. They've got their striking down in such a way they want to go and fight the Thais. I thought that was absolutely fantastic. I mean, this was back in when they're black and white video,
yeah,
but
yeah,
it's a thing. You take what you can and you make it into your own. I mean, if someone who did like old school karate, like you said, walked into our dojo and they saw us put the big gloves on and they saw us having a bit of a scrap and kick to the legs and, go for a high kicks, maybe have a little grapple, they would exactly turn around and say that's not karate. Like, well, this black and white video from I don't know how many years ago says differently, mate.
Would you? Yeah, I would say probably original Kumite wouldn't have been at that long range anyway. It would have been within the
Mm,
close proximity and within the grappling range.
a bit Kyokushin then.
Because yeah, well, even closer hands on,
Mm,
um, because the long range sparring that we do now is kind of more kickboxing, isn't it? But
mm,
again, it's added to our karate. So we say kickboxing, it's karate how we do it. Um, and I think if you stay stuck in 1920s karate, if you haven't changed since that point, That's the kind of that's what we're excusing ourselves from, really. The karate that hasn't evolved and hasn't changed,
Mm,
that has stayed the same, hasn't evolved. And I think I think MMA played a big part in people having to evolve. Because if you didn't
mm.
evolve, you're way left behind. Because MMA is really it's been a great place to pressure test, hasn't it, and see what does work and what doesn't work. And
Yeah,
there's been some
absolutely.
awesome karate fighters within MMA as well, hasn't there? So
Mm.
it does work within that rule set. Um, but people wouldn't say, Wonder Boy, or GSP, and Machida. I wonder, walking into their dojo, would they say, "Oh, that's not karate," because of the way they train? Um,
That would be an interesting one because I know with like Machida, he's gone all out with his Machida karate, karate for combat sports. I think if he were to look at anything, he would say, yeah, that's karate one way or another. But I think it's a case of their karate, they've just adapted it for, I mean, everyone said that they've adapted it for that MMA rule set. I mean, it is that thing of like you have a striking and grappling skill set and you adapt it for your competition. You can teach whatever you want in the dojo, but if you're looking to go and compete, you have to adapt what you do to that rule set. Like, excuse me, say for example, if we were to go back and do competition for like point sparring, we'd still take our punching and our kicks and maybe some sweeps for that, but we would not include in that competition training, the joint locks, the big heavy throws, illegal punches, that sort of thing.
I was just thinking there again, just going to go off on a tangent, because
Mm,
I think I do karate, but I think one of the things with a lot of other, particularly combat sport, is you don't get adults training with kids the way you do in karate. So I think you do in taekwondo a lot. The kind of family
mm,
orientated traditional martial arts, and I think that's the thing. Maybe within the traditional martial arts, you get it a bit more, perhaps. So again, that's maybe why it's not taken so seriously. Because it's as an adult. And I remember one of our students said this to me. It was in a grading. This was when I
mm,
was with BKI, when I was with my old organisation, and he was stood there, and he looked either side of him, and there was like a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old, and he thought, this doesn't feel very tough at all. Do you know what I mean?
mm,
Whereas I did see something. I can't remember the thing behind it, but the guy said he looked at the kids beside him and he thought, they're just as scared as me, and they're so brave, kind of thing. But I think if you're thinking about, learning a combat to be combative and learning a combat art, and you're standing next to a 6-year-old, you don't feel that rough and tough, do you? You know.
mm.
Um,
Is
so
that's a good point. I mean, in judo, they do specifically separate ages out into, you've got your primaries, the younger children, you've got your juniors who are like the kids to teenagers, then you've got your seniors who you're 16 plus. You have to do it that way because if you get a big bloke, you know, also Tagaring a very small child, they're just going to go head first into the not concrete, but into the
you
tatami.
imagine it,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah,
remember, although seeing this meme that went viral, I think it was earlier this year. It was this very very large man, and he took a photo of himself in a karate gi. He said it was a white belt. He'd never done karate before, but what he said was, I was this very big man who's gone and had a very like rough kind of life, and here I am wearing the same uniform as this
that was what I was thinking of. Yeah, yeah,
little
yeah. That's
child
what I was.
next to
Yeah,
me, and I felt nothing but respect and humility. She might have, I've had different life experiences to her. She's been in this game for longer than me, but I felt nothing but respect, humility for this, for the equality that we felt in that moment.
yeah. That was
Of
the thing that I was thinking of.
coming
Yeah,
onto the mat together.
but it's not. It's not a good idea. I don't think. You
Mm-mm.
can't. Mix. Particularly if you're doing a combat sport, or even if you, again, some of the things we might teach for self-protection, some of the real nasty stuff you can't be teaching things like. I mean, I don't
No.
particularly like, I don't teach kids chokes and locks, really. So our kids program is more about sport. So um doing that sport type of karate. And then when as
Mm.
they get older, then we start to incorporate, when they come onto the teens and adults, then we incorporate what we do. But yeah, to teach them how to break somebody's arm, or to teach them how
Mm.
to choke somebody out, personally, I don't think it's a good thing to teach young kids. Um,
Yeah.
and this is where, again, so all combat styles, I'd have thought Muay Thai gyms, you'd have a junior mat and a senior mat, and same with,
Yeah.
um, you might be able to fill us in on that, because you've done a bit of kudo. I'm assuming they have junior mats and senior
Um,
mats.
yeah, I mean, when I did Kudo, it was just they didn't. It wasn't a massive class, so it was just the seniors. But I know Mal in Wales does run a mat for juniors for
Because you can't have
Kudo.
kids sparring with adults, can you? Really?
No,
Not.
you can't have an adult, just go and headbutting a kid. You know, as entertaining as that might be, I don't think
Yeah,
that's allowed.
yeah. Yeah, mind you, at the Kudo camp we was at, I'm just going to, again, we're going off a tangent. The other thing we went to in Cardiff, we could talk about that at the end, how awesome that was. But I
Mm,
don't know how old the lad was, maybe 16. I'm gonna say he was 18, but he was fucking ferocious, and he was flying at me with headbutts. So saying, you'd have thought me as the bigger, stronger grown man would have been just mussing him around, but he was brutal, and obviously hats off to Mal for producing such quality fighters. But yeah, he was
mm,
only a young lad, but obviously he's had a really good coach, um,
absolutely. But I
to
think
teach him that.
at the same time, and Mal's made this distinction before, martial arts is for, everyone, but, combat sports, you're a fighter, you are fighting for that win. I mean, sometimes you will be, and especially when you got people like AJ and Ben and Kieran and Ethan as well, and what's that, Leah, everyone who Mal has, they're there for fight, they are for the win, they are there fighting for the win. But at the same time, they'll bring things down, to match people's skill levels. But at the same time, you got people like that. You got younger people who are going to be looking up to them and thinking, okay, I'm going to get them this session, and they're being encouraged to get them this session,
Yeah,
to get them for that sweep or that lovely right cross to the
probably
face
why
or
that
that.
young lad was just flying at me with headbutts. I'm
Yeah,
going to get you, old man.
yeah. At
Um,
the same time, you might have been thinking, bigger bloke. I've got to make a stance here that I might be
yeah,
smaller and younger, but
yeah.
you can respect me to give me a good shot because I'll give you just the same.
He was ferocious, man. He was
That's
ferocious.
it's fantastic.
Yeah, but yeah. So going back to, I mean, karate, but we keep going.
Mm,
I mean, I started in the early '80s when I was 9 years old in '81. Yeah, when I
mm,
started, and I think even then, like, people talk about the '70s as well, and they're saying like this was the golden era, what people think was the golden era of karate, because I think you used to get people who used to like to fight. And I don't think many kids did it back then as well. I think
mm,
when I went to this dojo, it was all adults, and I only was allowed in because my uncle knew one of the black belts. So he
mm,
was only allowed to train because of that reason. And we had a real talking to, just saying, if you mess about and I find out, you guys are in big trouble. So we had to behave ourselves. We had to train hard. Um, so I wonder if the perception of karate is it's a it's a pursuit for young kids, really. Which that's
mm,
why we have to say I do karate, but um, but yeah, like I say, when I started it, there were some tough guys, and I think back then it was only really people who liked fighting did it, because they went in there. A lot of the kumite, some of them didn't even wear gloves, and the old school gloves were just like little foam protectors, the white elasticated mitts, and that they
mm,
wear for kudo. Actually, barely any protection at all. Um, so yeah, I think people have that pers- perspective of karate as well. People of a certain age, and I think, yeah, that was when karate was tough. But I think you have to go back a long way to when karate was good. To say.
mm.
So yeah,
Agreed.
karate. Yeah, it's the kid's pursuit, I think, which is what makes me say I do karate. But
Mm. I think you said before that I forget. You said you had a friend. I don't remember his name, who did a karate club, but then they switched it to kickboxing, and because the perspective
yeah,
of kickboxing is a lot more, fighting, they got
yeah,
a lot more people in through the door because of that. Because they thought, oh, karate, it's for children. Have to buy
exactly.
the
Yeah.
gi,
So
have to buy the belt.
yeah, karate instructor. yeah, and you pretty much sort of summed it up there. But yeah, he had really no numbers, trying to get people through the door. Couldn't get people through the door, particularly adults. Yeah, as soon
Mm.
as he opened it, he said, right, I changed it because they pretty much did kickboxing anyway. So he said we ditched the gis, wore shorts and t-shirts, called it a kickboxing club, and within a month we was full up. So yeah, new kickboxing clubs opened, and yeah, so I think what see, I don't know if karate should change. I don't know.
I
To
think we have to change it with our own perspective as well, because if we're having to think, okay, I have to explain it every time that we do karate, but I think that also it feels like we're putting ourselves down as well. We are doing karate, we
this
are
is how
doing
you
a
feel,
hard
yeah,
hitting
when you
martial
tell,
art,
yeah,
and I think now if someone asks me how to do karate, I say loud and proud, doing karate, and they're like, okay, cool, but then I hear someone else's experience with karate, said, yeah, that's not karate,
yeah. But you know
that's
what happens as well? A lot of the time, because I'm a driving instructor, so I teach
mm,
young people to drive. Um, but and if you talk about your hobbies and stuff, and when you say, "Oh, yeah, I do karate, I teach karate," and often people go, "Yeah, I got my yellow belt in karate," so they will have kind of an idea of what they think you do because they got their yellow belt in karate or they got their green belt. Um, so they have this idea of, oh yeah, so in your spare time you march up and down doing this. That's why I think I
mm,
still feel you have to, like you say, you feel like you're putting yourself down. I do karate, but or making
mm,
excuses for yourself. But a lot of people have had an experience within karate.
yeah,
So
true,
I think
absolutely.
I think that's the thing. What we do needs to be a bit more mainstream, so you don't have to excuse yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a good way of doing that is promoting what we do on like social media as well. If someone wants to look up, oh, karate Dunstable, in all of my posts, I always put things like, I don't know, hashtag karate Dunstable, hashtag martial arts in Dunstable, in case someone's Googling, oh, martial arts in Dunstable. Oh, here's an Instagram page of a karate club. Oh, this is what they do. This looks like
Yeah,
fun.
yeah, and I think that's it. See, I went through a bit of a phase of doing like lots of posts, but so it sort of slowed down a little bit. But I think, like you say, yeah, if you want people to know what real karate is, you've got to put it out there. I think, like I
Yeah.
say, Ian Abernethy's done a great job of that. People see what Ian does, but even though we know who Ian is, there's a lot of people who
Mm,
don't. And
yeah.
it surprises you. You think, oh, you've never heard of Ian, but you think everybody has, but they haven't.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest influences particularly for younger people, and maybe he's not so much now because he's getting older himself, was Jesse
Mm,
Enkamp, and the people of the karate nerd,
yeah. I
and I
mean,
think actually he's done some really good videos lately.
yeah.
To be fair to him, there was a
Agreed. I mean, he has done a lot of. He's done some good content. He's done some videos which I weren't too happy. Well, not happy about. Didn't like as much. But he has. He's done a very good way of presenting things. He's done a very good job of like opening people's minds to different ideas and
yeah,
possibilities. Go cross train, do another martial art. Look at how they do
yeah,
it
it's
that
given it a bit of
way.
credibility, I think. Yeah, with
Yeah.
so yeah. Um, so thinking of other people that would have done that, so it's obviously you got the MMA fighters within karate MMA fighters. They're giving it some credibility again. But yeah, it's just people have got to put it out there. The karate culture guys or karate breakdown,
Yeah.
again, they'll compare karate with other arts and saying, this is all within karate, and it is. If you're doing karate
Yeah.
right. So
So I think it
um,
is a case of the people that are doing karate, the 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 way that we like and the way that we think karate should be, as long as everyone keeps pumping out the content, the more exposure that gets,
good karate,
then that
yeah,
the more that becomes the standard. It's gonna be a very, very slow burn, but I think it's happening.
yeah. So yeah, karate culture was bringing back the old ways. I'm trying to remember Terry Burkett's making karate dangerous again, or something like that. I think it
Mm,
was. So karate
nice.
was, it was dangerous, wasn't it? And if you said to somebody, I suppose you look at the trolls online, they always make fun. Oh, just do Muay Thai or do BJJ or do MMA, but karate is dangerous if you train it right. So
Mm,
yeah, making karate
absolutely.
dangerous again.
I agree. We've got a
Yeah,
few minutes left of our chat. We said we want to talk about Cardiff quickly.
yeah. Do you want to kick that off?
Yeah, absolutely. So recently we went to an MMA weekend hosted by the legend that is Mal Sanchez Jones. They had teams over from obviously from Wales, England, Spain, France. Did I miss a country? Ireland as well.
Ireland, yeah, the boys from
Yeah,
Ireland.
and lots of different people over. We had an amazing time. It was, a session of karate, but karate, everything was for combat sports in a gi. So a good like combat karate session run by Mal. We had an amazing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu session run by Spen. We had a very fun wrestle on the beach,
Well,
beach
that was
wrestling,
awesome.
which
Oh,
was
you're king
absolutely
of the beach.
amazing.
You own
Uh,
Barry Island Beach now, don't you?
Apparently,
Yeah.
I am Grandmaster of Barry Island Beach, and everyone who steps foot on there is on my territory, and they are more than welcome to. I am a gracious lord, of course, but and yeah, the lovely pizza in the evening at nice Italian place in Cardiff, and the next day we had a
Judo was awesome. I
judo
can't remember the
session.
guy's name. Is he
Craig
Welsh
Ewers.
coach? Yeah, he was fucking
Yeah,
fantastic.
I think Mal said that he was the youngest ever judo coach for the national team.
He's
He
like
was
water, man, wasn't he? He was smooth.
he was a legend,
Yeah,
honestly, insane. I
yeah,
think he was like sixth dan in judo, and he's
yeah.
obviously
Very
he's got
young.
a black
To,
belt in
yeah,
Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He's done a lot of
and he's
MMA, I think, as
MMA
well.
coach as well, isn't he? Got his own
Yeah,
fight gym. And
he's.
then who was the Kudo guy from Spain? Because he was really good. I really enjoyed his
I
session.
do not remember. Oh, I am so sorry, but
But yeah,
so
the
the
last
Kudo
session,
Spain team,
yeah, yeah,
the sensei from the Kudo Spain team, who ran the Kudo session at the end, absolutely amazing, great, well explained, good drills, and all of that, just an amazing weekend, and we
yeah.
got
I mean,
we got a lot of people to thank, and from Mal to Spen, to the Spanish team to Sensei Craig as well, everyone, just amazing weekend.
yeah, the Spanish guy that instructed, you could tell he was hard as nails, couldn't you? He
Mm.
just had this,
Tough bastard,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, he had this aura around him, this air about, yeah, I'm hard. But it was bloody nice. He was a really nice guy because I rolled with him in a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu session, and he just like made light work of me. I've never done jiu-jitsu before, so
Mm,
my skills are very
yeah.
limited. But it was very
Um,
helpful. It was very
yeah.
helpful with it. So
And that was an entire weekend of training for 60 quid. So bloody good value. I think
look out
Mal's going
for
to
it
be
next
doing
year.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah, Mal's going
yeah.
to be doing it next year. I'm going to tell everyone that I know, even those that don't do martial arts, come on, have a bit of fun. And yeah, that'll be it. We've got about a minute left. Any
Yeah.
plugs, Brian, for anything coming up soon?
Um, no, I can't think of anything. So, I mean, I'm doing Tommy Joe Moore's uh, combatives, World War II combatives 3 day session. It's like an instructor course, so I'm looking forward to that. We have the crazy Dane over as well coming to join in to do
The
that.
Dragon
Jan,
Man
the
himself.
Dragon Man, yeah. So
Mm.
yeah, but no, that's it. I'm good. So yeah, I do karate, but it's make it
We do
badass.
karate, but it's awesome.
Yeah, that's it. Us.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Us. You know where you can find us. You can find me at Mackenzie and Karate on Instagram. You can find Brian at Brian Bates and Shin Karate as well. Did I
That's
get
it.
that
Yeah.
right?
So yeah,
Awesome.
that's it. So till next time.
Till next time, us.
Us.